Hey guys, what's up? It's Debbie, and I am back with more true crimes of criminal minds. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time, this is what I do here. I watch Criminal Minds episodes, then I give you a little recap, and then I talk about either a crime that was mentioned, a crime that the episode was based on, or a similar crime. Today, I am going to be talking about the season 2 episode Psychodrama, and it is about a bank robber. I hope that you guys are all doing well. I hope you've had a good week, and I'm glad to be back. I've had some health issues, still having some health issues, so my scheduling of my videos has been a little erratic lately. I'm hoping to get back on track with this one. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the show. Let's get started. As the episode opens, we see a bank robbery. A bloodied security guard is handcuffed to a table. The robber fires his gun into the ceiling and everyone in the bank hits the floor. And then we see that the people in the bank are sitting in a semicircle on the floor. They're clad only in their underwear. They're all watching something. When one man refuses to look and turns away, the robber hits him with his gun and yells, "Watch it! Watch it!" Back at Quantico, our intrepid seekers of justice gather in the round table room, while JJ briefs the team about the bank robberies in LA. Over the past 2 months in the LA metro area, there have been 4 bank robberies. It's a lone robber wearing a black ski mask. The LA field office asks the BAU for assistance due to the unique MO of the robber. He makes them undress, puts their clothing in the vault, and takes the money. Derek thinks it's a forensic measure. He says, and I quote, "Smart. Nobody's going to run after him butt naked." I miss Derek. It seems that the last robbery was a little different. Not only did he make them undress, but he made 4 of the victims pair off and simulate sex in front of everyone. Reed explains that the MO also keeps them intimidated and less likely to fight back, and somehow using a practical MO to rob banks, he stumbled onto a psychological signature that excites him. Elle says that he's a sex offender now, and Gideon calls him a serial killer in the making. After the intro, we see Haley in Hotch's office, and she's telling him, first she tries to make him guess what he forgot. I don't like Haley. And then she tells him that he missed the test that she had to take Jack to do. And there's 2 reasons why I'm sharing this part. I hate this scene. And like I've already said, this is the first reason. I do not like Haley. If I was married to Hotch, I would be, chill. Like, that's your job. You do your job. We're important when you're home, and your job is important when you're there. I don't understand the concept of, I want to divorce you because you're not home enough. As if then you divorce him, you don't have him at all. Anyway, I'm getting off the topic. I don't like Haley. So this is kind of the beginning of accusing Aaron of never being there for his family. And it irritates me. Also, this scene is 100% lazy writing. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a nurse, but Hotch asked her about the results of the medical test, and she says he has a condition, it's treatable. What? You don't just say, oh, he has a condition, especially when it's your kid. No, he has this, he needs to take this medication or do this treatment, or no. Oh, it's a condition, and it's treatable. Well, excuse me? My son has a condition, and you came all the way down to my office to guilt me about it. What's wrong with him? Is it a long treatment? Is it an expensive treatment? Is it a shot? Is it a pill? Is it daily? Is it a one time? Is it surgery? This scene is so unbelievable. I hate this scene. And as we go forward, you will find out how much I dislike Haley. Because there are other episodes where she pulls similar crap like this. Let me know in the comments what you think about Haley. On the flight to LA, the team wonders why these banks and why these victims. There are no videos or pictures of what he made the victims do. Because JJ says there's a glitch in the security system and that they are working on it. They're not sure if he's going to rob another bank, essay someone, or go on a killing spree. Like, this whole situation is up in the air. When they get to the bank, they wonder why he beat this guard, but none of the others. And when they look at the pictures of the stills from the video camera, they see that the other 3 guards were not in uniform and this one was. So something about a uniform triggers this guy. So the local FBI agent on the case wonders if he could be ex-military. But Derek says no, because the military teaches you to work together as a team, and this guy doesn't trust anyone and he works alone. So then Gideon says that prison is the best trade school in the country, and they think he may be an ex-con. Hotch and Elle are back at the police station going through the taped witness statements. They find out that one of the couples was the bank manager and his wife, and their kids were there. What she did, she went to pick up her husband, who was the bank manager, and they have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, teenagers. The son is 16, and they were supposed to go out to celebrate his 16th birthday, and then all this happened, and the kids actually had to sit there and watch all of this. The video surveillance was accidentally erased by the bank manager. He took 9 minutes to call 911. And they asked him what took so long. And he said, "Oh, I was gathering the tapes." And they said, "Before you called 911, you were gathering the tapes?" So I don't think anything was accidentally erased. Garcia uses her software rendering analysis program, or whatever it's called, to determine the height of the unsub. And she comes up with 2 different heights. So the first 3 robberies were done by someone taller. So now they're starting to wonder, are there 2 bank robbers? Is this even connected to the first 3 bank robberies? But Garcia, walking around her office in her high heels, sits down. Oh, why does beauty have to be so painful? And she picks up her high heel and she goes, "How do you make yourself taller without getting some strange Chinese surgery?" Heels. But in this case, the guy had lifts in his shoes as a forensic countermeasure to throw off anybody identifying him. And either he forgot to put the lifts in for the last one, or he's devolving to the point that he's getting sloppy. We're not sure. But that is what happened. So, still 1 robber. When Gideon and Hotch talk to the bank manager, he does admit that he erased the tape because he was embarrassed and humiliated. And he didn't even want the cops to see what they had been put through. And he didn't think it would matter. Guess what? It mattered. While they're delivering the profile, a 911 call comes in about a bank robbery in progress, and the robber is making people undress. The team rushed to the bank, but it's slow going in LA traffic. When the FBI, the LA FBI agent, actually drove on the sidewalk to get there more quickly. When the unsub leaves the bank, he has a motorcycle that now he has parked the motorcycle right out in front of the bank. In the previous robberies, he parked it down the street, around the corner. Now it's right out in front of the bank. And it is about to be ticketed for illegal parking. So, what does he do? He punches the traffic cop in the face and knocks her unconscious. When Derek and Hotch get there, she is still unconscious. And he is long gone. So they decide to look at recent parolees, and they come up with a possible name. And they find this guy in a bar. Number 1 no-no for probation. You're not supposed to drink. So they were able to arrest this guy for parole violations. While they were doing this, a call comes in about a gunman in a restaurant making people undress. And Al's on the phone with Derek, and she's like, "You've got the wrong scumbag." In the restaurant, rather than do what he did in the bank with the couples, he is having a 14-year-old boy hit his mother. And he hit her, but he didn't hit her hard enough. So the unsub told him to hit her harder. And when he refused to hit her harder, he shot him. They talked to the bank manager again because now the little play interaction thing he's doing has changed. They're trying to put together what was happening at the bank to the change in the little psychodrama. Hence the name of the episode. So they talk to the bank manager again, and the bank manager goes through and like, I was so embarrassed. We were raised Baptist. We don't even talk about these kind of things. And afterwards, his son goes, this incident has broken this family. Before they leave, the 16-year-old son says, "Is it true? Would he have really killed my dad if my dad did not cooperate?" And they said, "Yes, that is true. He did the right thing." And then the son tells them something really weird happened. And they were like, "Well, what?" And he said, "The robber said, 'I'm sorry,' afterwards." So Reed figures out that this is a psychodrama, which is a form of therapy where they use a surrogate to act out things that they wish they could do. I don't see how this is at all therapeutic, however, but psych was my least favorite subject in nursing school. I am not a psych nurse, and I will never be a psych nurse. And my psych clinicals were rather scary, and I don't like it. So I could be wrong, but I don't see how this is therapeutic in any way, shape, or form. So they find out that there was some kind of a pilot program with a nearby jail, and it was a psychodrama therapy thing. And so they look at this pilot program, they look at the attendees, and they narrow it down to one name that is still in the area. Everybody else has either died, gone to another jail, or just moved out of the area. So they had one person. So now they're pretty sure that they have their unsub. So they go to question his mother, and she makes all kinds of excuses for her son, like they do, saying that he just made a few mistakes when he was young after his dad died. He had some anger issues, he attacked his sister, and he was out of control, and just excuse after excuse after excuse. And the mom is lonely because dad's gone. She's on painkillers for a back injury that has gone out of control. She's addicted to them now. And she's just chatting away with him because she's lonely. She wants the company. But she will not tell them where her son was. Garcia finds out that 12 years prior to this, his sister killed herself. And I don't remember if it was Gideon or Hotch, but one of them says, "Man, this woman did a job on her family." So the unsub, Caleb, his name is Caleb, is playing out his fantasy of complete control of a mother by a son because he never had any say in anything. His mom, actually, I think it's like implied incest. Like, dad was gone, she was lonely, he was there. I'm not sure how that relates to the thing he made them do in the bank, but the other couple that he put together was a woman in her 60s and a man in his 30s, so that very well could be symbolic of a mother and a son. At the mother's house, they find a matchbook with the name of a hotel on it. So they go to the hotel. Derek walks in. There's like a plexiglass thing in front of the clerk. Derek slaps his credentials against the plexiglass. And then he slaps a picture of Caleb, and the clerk just doesn't say a word, just takes the key down to the room, puts it in the little slot, and they go to the room. Elle and Derek are outside of this hotel room, and Elle goes, "Here's the key." And Derek's like, "Nah." And he just breaks the door down. I love Derek so much. They find crystal meth on the dresser in the hotel room. He's not there, and his motorcycle is still parked outside. So he's got to be just roaming around on foot right now, high as a kite. And he sees a child's birthday party. And it's a nice suburban area. There's like a park with kids playing across the street. There's barbecue, there's balloons, there's a bouncy house, all the normal child birthday party type things. All the things that he never got as a child. So he has a Mac 10 and he goes into the backyard. Everybody cowers by the fence and he gives the birthday boy the gun. And he puts a knife to his throat and tells him to shoot his mother. And his mother, bless her heart, I do not know in that situation. But she's like, "Go ahead, honey, go ahead. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead and shoot me." Hotch is able to shoot him, take him down, arrest him, and then he calls the paramedics. And this is probably the most appalling thing that I have seen anybody on the team do, and I'm sure it appalls me for two reasons. I'm a nurse, and I'm also a chronic illness sufferer. So Caleb is in the ambulance, and he's screaming for pain meds because he's in so much pain. And Hotch tells the medics not to give him anything because he's a drug addict. There are medications that can be given for pain that can actually help you get off of narcotics and drugs. And that's what they give these kind of people. They don't just let them suffer because they're a drug addict. He's been shot. He's in pain. Yes, he is a POS, but that does not mean as a medical professional that you just don't medicate him for pain. That's unethical. And then the unsub says, "He's not a doctor." And then Hodge says, "No, I'm an FBI agent and he killed a 14-year-old boy today." So that's the end of the episode. Now, we're going to talk about the North Hollywood Shootout. This one guy is Romanian, and I've been practicing his name for a week. I'm probably still going to butcher it. Emil Matasareanu and Larry Phillips Jr. They named themselves the High Incident Bandits. More like the Stupid Incident Bandits, but whatever. On February 28, 1997, one of the bloodiest shootouts in American history happened at an LA branch of Bank of America. A total of 17 people were injured. Both bank robbers were killed. And here is the timeline leading up to these events. This is a lot. This one is a lot. I try to condense it as much as I can. So please don't come at me about shoddy research. I did not put in every little detail because it's just too long. So I'm condensing it. I wrote, I think it was a 13-page paper in nursing school. My labor and delivery patient, was in labor for over 36 hours. And when I turned in this 13-page paper, I got an A, and my teacher wrote across the top, "Good job condensing." So I condensed to a 13-page paper. That's a big paper to just be condensed. Larry Phillips Jr. was born under the assumed name Larry Warfel because his father was a fugitive from justice. He was born in LA on September 20th, 1970. Emil Matasareanu, I said it right, Matasareanu was born on July 19th, 1966 in Romania. The family moved to LA in 1974. Emil had epilepsy, was overweight, had a foreign accent, and he was awkward, so he had a difficult time making friends and fitting in at school. After high school, he went to the DeVry Institute of Technology and graduated with an electronics degree. He had his own business, met a woman on a trip to Romania, married, and had a son. Emil and Larry met at a Gold's Gym in 1989 in Venice, California. They bonded over their love of bodybuilding. Larry Phillips Jr. was orchestrating a series of real estate scams in Denver in 1992. This part is more interesting to me than the actual bank robbery was. He would pretend to be a house buyer, and he would position himself so that he could see them when they put in like the code for the lockbox to get the keys to the house. He would position himself where he could watch them put the code in. And he told one realtor that he was moving in from another state and he had a wife and a child, and she got suspicious because he didn't ask like the normal questions that a home buyer asks, like, are the schools in the area good? Where are the churches, the shops, groceries, whatever, like the normal questions you ask when you're moving with a family. So she got suspicious and she quit showing him houses. But what he would do, he would get the code, and then after he got the code, he would put an ad in the paper about houses for rent. So he got caught because he tried to rent a house to Cheryl Meyer, and she met him. She viewed the house, and she was curious as to why the house looked occupied and why there was a for sale sign out front. He explained to her that the current tenants would be out by the weekend. She agreed to rent the house. So he gave her the rental agreement and she filled it out. She went home and he called her later that day to say she had been approved, and also asked if he could meet her at her house the next day for the signature, for him to sign the rental agreement and get the down payment and all that. So monthly rent was $600 and the deposit was $400, so $1,000. The reason he got caught was because her husband was not with her and he agreed about renting the house, but he wanted to see it first. So they went to the house that evening so that she could show him the house, and they met the real owner of the house. And they said, no, it's not for rent, it's for sale. So they gave the Myers the contact information of the real realtor. And they called the realtor to tell them what had happened, and the realtor told them to call the police. So they called the cops, and they told her to keep the meeting with Mark. He said his name was Mark Wright. And a Denver detective, Detective Hogan, posed as Cheryl's husband. And he even wore one of his mechanic shirts with his name embroidered on the chest. After the money changed hands, he was arrested. He had $2,000 in a briefcase from another scam. So $1,000 per person. Those two other scams. One person did come forward and he was given his money back. I don't know about the other scam. He refused to give them his real name, and he signed the Miranda document as Mark Wright. He said that the car he was driving belonged to a friend in California. Well, that friend turned out to be his mother. He gave a social security number, but it was actually the number of a deceased woman from Arizona, and they do not know the connection between the two, how he got her number or anything. He was evasive and refused to answer 59% of the questions asked him. And if you would like to read the transcript of that interview, it is at northhollywoodshootout.net. His car had no license plates or registration, and there was just a temp sticker on the back window with info on a dealer from California. He gave a false date of birth and a non-existent address. So the detective was wise and was like, there's no houses there. That's not a residential area. So then he changed it and he gave them his father's address. His bond was $1 million for 2 counts of burglary, 2 counts of theft, and 1 count of attempted theft. His lawyer got his bond reduced to $10,000, which he paid, and then in the wind again. No show for his court date. He went back to LA and stayed with Matasareanu while they were looking for him in Denver. On July 20th, 1993, together they robbed an armored car in Littleton, Colorado. Later in 93, they were stopped for speeding in Glendale, California. They were in a red Thunderbird that was rented from an airport. When the officer asked whose car it was, Larry was driving, and he lied again, but this time he said it was his mother's car. The car was searched, and they found multiple guns with plenty of ammo, IEDs, smoke bombs, police scanner, and 3 California license plates. Phillips was charged with conspiracy to commit robbery, grand theft auto, unlawful weapons activity, and felony perjury. Although the perjury and grand theft auto were dropped for lack of evidence. Emil Matasareanu was charged with conspiracy to commit robbery, unlawful weapons activity, and carrying a loaded firearm in a vehicle. Emil, being a naturalized citizen with ties to Romania, was given a $1 million bond. Phillips's bond amount is unknown, but it's thought to be of a similar amount. Emil pleaded guilty to 1 misdemeanor and 1 felony count of weapons possession. Phillips pleaded no contest to 1 count felony impersonation. I don't know if that's supposed to be impersonation. I don't know what that means. Somebody tell me what that means in the comments. So 1 count of felony impersonation and 1 count misdemeanor for the weapons charge. They were sentenced on December 27th, 1993. Phillips received 99 days with 36 months probation, and Matasareanu was sentenced to 71 days with 36 months probation. They were released with time served. Phillips was still wanted in Denver, but Denver did not choose to extradite him for some reason. On June 14th, 1995, they robbed another armored car, this time in Winnetka, LA, California. They parked at a gas station and waited for the guard to exit the bank with the money. They shot Dwight Herman Cook before he even had time to pull his sidearm. The driver, Felipe Cortez, shot 2 rounds through the gun port but missed. They got away with $122,500. On May 27, 1996, at 9:33 a.m., they hit another armored car, but this time was a little different. Rather than waiting for them to come out of the bank and ambush them, they decided that they were just going to attack the armored car. And so the driver of the armored car did some evasive driving and lost him. Do they teach armored car drivers evasive driving? So they decided to cut their losses and they ran and they ditched the van and they set it on fire. After 11 months of no activity, they struck again, this time actually robbing the bank itself. A Bank of America in Van Nuys, California was their target on May 31st, 1996. They miscalculated, thinking that an armored car had just been delivering money to the bank. They expected a $2 million score, but instead they only got $794,200. Only. Boy, I wish I had $794,200. There were bait bills in with the money, but it's unclear if the FBI ever traced them. A civilian was in the parking lot and was warned by a woman that she thought the bank was being robbed and that they shouldn't go in. Although people were still trying to get in the bank, they didn't realize what was going on, so she must have heard something. So the man stayed in his car and he waited for the robbers to come out, and he chased them. Stupid! No, you call the police. And the robbers lost him. So then he saw a police car and he stopped and reported to the police what had happened, what they were driving. I don't know if he got a license plate, but they probably had alternate license plates if he did. And at this point, the crime stopped again because Emil had epilepsy from childhood. Now, one source that I read said that he had been hit in the head with a shoe. And it didn't give any more specifics than that. But when they moved to America from Romania when he was a child, he had epilepsy. So I don't know if he was born with it or if it was a head injury along the way. But in any case, he was having seizures and blackouts, and it got so bad that he has to be hospitalized. He had a blood clot in his brain, and the surgery to remove it cost $45,000. So he paid a down payment of $15,000, and the surgery was performed. But now they had to wait and see if the clot had done any permanent damage to his brain. He was put on 2 seizure medications. One's called phenobarbital, and the other one's dilantin. He was reluctant to take the meds due to the side effects. Phenobarbital and dilantin require blood tests to check for therapeutic levels. Not high enough, and there's no effect, and you might as well not even be taking it. Too much can cause serious toxicity, and you can get very ill from actually taking the medication. Taken together, and they are often prescribed together, but if the levels are monitored and their appropriate therapeutic levels, and also therapeutic levels could be different for one person than it could be for another. But if the levels are too high and they're used together, it can cause nausea, vomiting, tremors, lethargy, slurred speech, visual disturbances, changes in mental status. So it can actually give you seizures. The medicine that you're taking to stop the seizures, if the therapeutic level is too high, you can actually have more seizures because of the medication. And it can also cause confusion and psychosis. Emil was in a deep depression due to his failing health and marital problems. Phillips, though, he was just the opposite. He was on top of the world. So Emil is healing up from his surgery, and it took a while. So while this was going on, Phillips started making body armor, and he cut up bulletproof vests, because, like, the strap part, and he fashioned body armor that, like, he wore a bulletproof vest, but he cut up several more to fashion armor for his shins, thighs, groin, and forearms. During this time, the FBI bank squad staked out area banks, hoping to catch them in the act, but there was no sign of them. On February, now we're at the main event, on February 28th, 1997, covered in his homemade armor, he and Emil, dressed all in black, and they parked in the alley by the North Hollywood branch of Bank America and waited for the armored car to show up. They like Bank of America for some reason. Unfortunately for them, the armored car had been rescheduled, and so they saw the armored car drive past the bank. So when this happened, they just decided to rob the bank, and it went wrong almost immediately. Broad daylight, there were police patrolling the area. They're in body armor. Now, Emil only had, they said, a trauma chest or something like that. So I'm assuming it's some kind of a bulletproof thing that just goes over your chest. Phillips had 71 pounds of body armor on. So they're dressed all in black. They have body armor on. They've got ski masks on. And there's cops patrolling the area. So the cops saw them go into the bank. Also a woman walking her dog. And she called the police. So due to the change of the delivery schedule, there was less cash at the bank. They were expecting to get $750,000, but instead they only got $303,305. So Emil was in the vault with a teller. He was putting cash in his bag, and Phillips was in the lobby controlling the hostages. And he kept glancing over to Phillips to check on him, make sure everything was controlled out there and everything was going fine. And one of the times that he looked away, the teller slipped a pack of money with a die pack in it, into the bag. There was also a safe in the vault that only the armored car drivers had the combination to. And he tried to blow it up, but it was bulletproof, so nothing happened to it. And so stupid. He was so angry that he couldn't get the safe open that he shot 100 rounds into the vault, destroying the rest of the money. Instead of taking the rest of the money, he shot it up. Already upset because his score was less than he thought it was going to be. These guys were not very bright. Then he ordered all the hostages into the vault. When they exited the bank, the cops were ready for them. Unfortunately for the cops, they were only armed with Berettas, which were not made to pierce armor. Phillips and Matasareanu were armed with multiple weapons, some having been illegally modified to full auto. The police had to borrow semi-auto weapons from a local gun store. From the time they left the bank, the whole thing was televised. Witnesses said that it was like being in an action movie. The firefight lasted for 44 minutes. That's almost an hour, y'all. When they exited the bank, the cops told them to surrender and they shot at the cops. Almost 2,000 rounds were fired, 1,100 of them from Phillips and Matasareanu. When they ran out of bullets, they went back inside the bank to reload and strategize. They decided that they would just create chaos with bullets in order to escape. They shot the counter and cake freezer of a nearby Baskin Robbins. They shot up a keysmith. These were all businesses that were in the area. A dentist office and a pizzeria. And they just barely missed a delivery driver, and they destroyed a pizza oven. And they also shot someone through the wall of the building, and there was a dog being taken to the vet, and the dog got shot on the nose. So it's a good thing they were at the vet. Don't shoot dogs, man. They don't do anything to anybody. They're good. Officer Henry Jones risked his life to get the woman that was shot to safety. Philip shot him twice, one in the arm, once in the leg, and then Detective Frank McGregor drove his car to help Jones, and then Philip shot his car. This part is so funny. In the middle of the firefight, the bag of money is sitting there, and it starts to emit purple smoke. I didn't know dye packs did that, but that's cool. Purple's my favorite. Purple's my favorite color. So that ticked him off, and he went back into the bank with the intention to kill the teller that put the die pack in the money. But apparently, when he put them in the vault, he did not lock them in the vault, because he went back in to kill the teller, and the teller grabbed the vault door and shut it before he could get in there to them. So Emil came back out, and he got in the car, and he tried to get Phillips to get in the car with him so that they could take off. And Phillips said, no, you go, and we'll meet later, and I'm going to keep shooting at the cops, but I'd rather die than go back to jail. So the cops continued firing, and the bullets were just bouncing off of his body armor. The SWAT team was at... This is another funny part. I have a morbid sense of humor, if you guys have not figured that out already. It's a medical professional thing. The SWAT team was at the gym working out when the firefight started. So when they got there, most of them were still wearing their gym shorts. But the SWAT team came armed with AR-15s. Phillips lost his balance due to the bullets hitting his legs, but he kept firing. And he even fired at the sheriff's helicopter overhead. He hid behind a semi-trailer, still trying to shoot, but his gun jammed, and he couldn't get the mag out, so he shot with his handgun. And the last shot he fired was into himself. And it was undetermined who shot was the actual shot that killed him. He had over 21 body shots. Emil tried to flee in the car, but the police shot the tires out. He then tried to steal 2 different cars with no success. He saw a truck approaching, shot at the driver, but missed. So the driver stopped the car and ran away and took cover, and Emil attempted to start the truck, but it had a kill switch, and he didn't know how to disable it to get the truck to start again. So he was forced to take cover and battle with the SWAT team. He was shot in the femoral artery, and police were able to approach and cuff him. But he bled to death before the ambulance arrived. This was considered a win for LAPD. Only 11 officers and 6 civilians were injured. The only fatalities were the 2 bank robbers. 1 year later, 19 officers were awarded Medals of Valor. The Pentagon also gave the LAPD 600 M16 rifles to assure that the LAPD would never be outgunned again. So, there it is, guys, the North Hollywood shootout and why cops are allowed to be equipped with semi-auto weapons now. So until next week, guys, remember, be kind to people, love your family, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye!